We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the fairgrounds.
Welcome to Active Shooter, a podcast that covers the whys, the hows, and the aftermath of active shooter and mass casualty events.
They have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
I've been shot. 1692 means we got shots fired. 4:15 AS. Route 291 sounded like an automatic firearm.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Active Shooter, a podcast that may contain adult themes, explicit language, and graphic depictions of violence. Portions of this show may be traumatic for those under 18. Listener discretion is advised.
This is a nightmare that always happens somewhere else, Pearl, Mississippi, or a post office far away.
That's what we thought, Tom. But now a morning of terror has come to West Paducah, western McCracken County, Heath High School specifically. 2 of its students are dead this afternoon, 6 wounded, all shot down by a freshman student at Heath. There is so much to tell about this story, so we will start right at the beginning.
High school was meant for 2 things: to continue self-discovery and to continue preparing for college or a trade-based occupation. In fact, high school has many purposes, each one distinctive to the individual student. One thing is for sure: high school was not intended to be a shooter's playground. It was not meant to cause panic and mayhem beyond perhaps a last-minute presentation. It was certainly not destined to become a death trap. On December 1st, 1997, in West Paducah, Kentucky, Heath High School became just that. Active Shooter, the podcast, is a High Five Holly production, and I'm your host, JT. If you've listened to our prior episodes, you know that the Active Shooter podcast team has taken the No Notoriety pledge, and we will not be sharing the real name of the shooters that we cover. We will be giving the shooters a pseudonym and refer to them by that name throughout the episode. This will help in clearing up any confusion in the story while remaining true to our pledge and not naming the shooter by their actual name. In today's episode, we will be referring to the shooter as Walter. It was a cold, gray day in West Paducah when at 7:45 a.m., 14-year-old freshman Walter walked into Heath High School for the first day back after Thanksgiving break. Today would be different, though. He was no longer going to be bullied. This morning, he would do the bullying. In his backpack, he carried an MK2 .22 caliber pistol and a shotgun and rifle wrapped in paper and a bedsheet. When he placed the guns in the back of his sister's car, he said it was for an English project.
He told his sister that it was a project of some kind. She had no reason to believe it was anything other than the project. He didn't say anything, didn't act unusual, didn't say anything to her to indicate he was planning something big.
When he arrived at the school, he walked in, set the firearms and his backpack on the ground, put in bright orange foam earplugs to protect himself, and took the pistol out of the backpack, immediately opening fire.
Shots fired. Heath High School inside the lobby. Got subjects down. All right, they're on the way, okay? Okay, ma'am. We got 5 down. 5 down at this time.
The first pull of the trigger was the first time Walter had ever fired a gun. At the time Walter opened fire, a prayer meeting was wrapping up.
And as we started walking away, I started hearing popping noises. It sounded like firecrackers.
He shot those students exiting the room from 10 feet away, and later said that he thought he would fire one shot, and everyone would take off running. After firing, Walter dropped the gun on the ground and immediately surrendered himself to the principal, Bill Bond, who heard the bullets and came rushing to help.
He didn't get any more expression on his face than if I'd just caught him smoking in the boys' bathroom.
As the principal came to a stop in front of Walter, the shooter said, "Kill me, please. I can't believe I did that."
I see one of my own students standing there with a pistol, and he's shooting kids right in front of him. Kids were on the floor, bleeding to death.
The question is, what did he honestly think would happen? What would the loss of life solve? Would the exsanguination of life lead to his fulfillment? According to Walter, he believed that he would fire one shot and everyone would take off running. In total, 3 died, 5 were injured, and countless others were forever torn apart by the horror that ensued.
It was just total chaos. When I pulled up at the school, the lobby of the school, it was just a horrifying experience to look at that and to think what those children, what they went through, what was going through their minds when this was occurring. Some of the walls were riddled with bullet holes, and it was it was a very solemn experience for me, and it just really looked like a war zone.
Nicole Hadley, born August 3rd, 1983, was 14 years old when Walter decided to pull the trigger. 1 year before the shooting, Nicole moved to Kentucky from Nebraska. She loved to watch Saturday Night Live and was talented at making picture frames out of construction paper. She garnered many friends during her year at Heath High School and was a freshman in the school band with her sister. Contrary to the usual cliché stereotypes, she garnered many friends during her year at Heath High School and was a freshman in the school band with her sister, which is contrary to the usual cliché stereotypes. And she played center for the freshman basketball team. Nicole lived only until 10 o'clock p.m. on the night of the shooting. She was kept alive for the one, selfless reason that her family wished to donate her organs. Nicole was always very vocal about being an organ donor, so her parents honored her wishes. Until the shooting, Nicole was a member of the Heartland Baptist Worship Center and the Heartland Baptist Youth Group. She was survived by her parents, Chuck and Gwen Hadley, her sister Christina, and her brother Andrew. Jessica Jeanette James joined Nicole Hadley playing in the marching band. Not only was Jessica an extremely dedicated member, her parents were also involved in the band community. Following suit, Jessica also played mellophone and French horn in the school band. Born December 10th, 1979, Jessica was 17 years old when she was taken away from her parents, Joe and Judy James, and her sisters, Jennifer and Jacqueline. She was known for her trademark and favorite cartoon character, Taz. She was very religious and was also a member of the youth group at Lovelace Baptist Church, where she also spent time in their musical interpretation group. She attended Caville Baptist Church, and her leadership skills, both at the church, in school, and her day-to-day life, were palpable. The final victim who died, Case Stager, was just 15 years old. Born September 27, 1982, Case was a sophomore who spent time playing the clarinet in the marching band. A member of the Agape Club and an avid softball player, Case was known as a good team player. She was an honor student at school and was a member of the Law Enforcement Explorers Post 111 with the ultimate goal of becoming a police officer. She had a rooster she would chase around in her backyard. She would, ultimately, perish at Lourdes Hospital in Paducah 45 minutes after the shooting. Case will also be missed by her parents Wayne and Sabrina Stager, her sisters Angie and Becky, and her brother Dustin. Injured during the shooting, 17-year-old Shelley Shayberg was considered the school's best athlete, crowned homecoming queen, and voted Miss Heath High School by her peers in the senior class. Shelley was also an exceptional basketball player and received a scholarship to play basketball at college. Due to her injuries, however, she could no longer continue her basketball career. The school still honored her scholarship, and she played soccer instead. Melissa Jenkins went by Missy and was 15 years old at the time of the atrocity. Missy has since gotten married and now goes by Missy Jenkins Smith. She was the president of the Future Homemakers of America in high school. She almost did not have a chance to grow up. Walter aimed and fired at her chest, paralyzing her from the chest down, and now she lives her life in a wheelchair. She has 2 boys, Logan and Carter, and she has written 2 books. Missy refuses to live in fear and chooses to live with a purpose. She currently resides on a farm in Murray, Kentucky.
I don't have any hard feelings towards you. I'm just upset that this happened.
Kelly Hard-Alsip was another student injured. Kelly was a member of the softball team and a member of the Future Homemakers of America. A year after the shooting, she transferred to a local Catholic school. Also injured was Holland Holm, a member of the academic team, Spanish club, and Science Olympiad. He went on to be the class of 2001 valedictorian. Finally, Craig Keene was 15 years old when he was injured. He was a member of the Agape Club, basketball team, and the band. West Paducah is a small town with a population of 6,300 people. The city is host to one neighborhood and is known as a quiet place to live with a low crime rate. It is only the 72nd largest community in Kentucky. Also home to the National Weather Service Forecast Office, which services Paducah and the surrounding areas. Summers are known as hot and humid, with mild winters. Heath High School was established in 1910 and instructs students in grades 9 through 12. The school closed in 2013 as it consolidated with Heath, Reedland, and Lone Oak High Schools to create McCracken County High School. Walter, the shooter, was born on July 1, 1983. When he committed the shooting, he was a 14-year-old freshman who had no explanation for the crime he committed. Weeks prior to the shooting, he stole a .38 caliber handgun from his parents' room and tried to sell the gun to a student.
About 2 weeks before the shooting occurred, went to his father's closet and found a handgun. He put that handgun in his backpack and took it to school with him. He showed it to a friend of his and said, "What do you think of this?" And the student said, "Well, you better put it back and you better not bring it back again."
He told other students something big was going to happen soon. But like so many of the students we have already covered, no one believed him, and nothing was ever done.
My friend Eric actually heard that something big was going to happen, but the way was, he joked all the time, so Eric just laughed it off and said, "Whatever, you're not going to do anything. Nothing big's going to happen." Didn't think anything of it.
On Thanksgiving that year, he broke into a neighbor's house and stole 4 .22 rifles, a .30-30 rifle, ammunition, earplugs, a .22 pistol, and 22 magazines, and hid them inside a crate he kept in his closet. They were hidden in plain sight.
On Thanksgiving Day, he had Thanksgiving with his parents and grandparents. They all came over to the house. They had their meal, and then wanted to go ride his bike. Rode his bike to a neighbor's house, and he broke into a garage where some guns were stored. He brought the guns, wrapped in a blanket, into his bedroom.
Walter was paranoid, always thinking he was being watched, so he covered up the windows when using the bathroom at home. He was often bullied and suffered from depression, anxiety, and severe paranoia. Despite having very loving parents and an older sister, he displayed odd behavior and was socially awkward and unable to interpret social interactions correctly.
We saw each other every day. We were in the band together, and he was a really, really funny guy.
After the shooting, he was diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder and dysthmia. Peers later described some of his odd behavior, which maybe was early-onset schizophrenia, or was perhaps just different behavior. We can't know the answer to that, but descriptions of his behavior ranged from wearing capes to school, to drinking correction fluid, and salad dressing, to more extreme acts, such as setting stink bombs.
There's one time he wore a twister board as a cape and ran around and just making people laugh, just doing stupid, silly stuff.